I think this is the fourth time I've tried doing just this beginning intro, but let's get into it. Crazy topic. Talking. I don't know if it's crazy, but some people wouldn't be willing to probably share this and it kind of expose their emotions on how they feel about this whole my wife making more money than me situation. But I really wanted to talk about it and express it because I think I could probably relate with a couple people in this day and age, especially with this whole alpha red pillar. I don't want to get into it, but all that mentality about if a man doesn't make X amount of money or whatever. All right. But before we continue, let me just explain who I am. I'm Carlos Casares, 34 years old. Everyone had their things, their trials. I actually don't think I had that much difficulty growing up, in my opinion. Yeah, I had a normal hardships that come with a Mexican father, Mexican immigrated father. To be fair, they immigrated here, and so I think it's called second generation, right? But they immigrated here, naturalized my parents, and there was a lot of like machismo. Never held it against my dad. I love my parents. I actually have nothing to say bad about them. They worked hard. They did the things that they knew that they had to do, which was raising us and raising us right. And they did. They did that for all their children. And so I don't think I actually went through a lot of tribulations, trials that I feel would have molded a different person a different way for sure. But it did make me the man that I am today, and I'm proud to be who I am today, especially emotionally. Um, my attitude, my personality, the way I act, the way I actually do face stressful situations when they do appear. And I'm proud of that. And thankfully, because of the way I am, I married a great person in my life, and I'm with someone who makes more money than me. All right. But continuing on, again, I'm Carlos Casares, 34 years. I now live in Seattle, Washington. Sorry, the camera keeps on moving. That's just shaking at the table. I live now in Washington State. Uh, Originally born in California, Compton, California. Then we lived most of my life in Whittier, California, though. Then went to Texas. Then from Texas went to, again, Seattle, Washington. Now I have my business that I manage remotely. And because of that, full transparency, I don't make as much as I used to. When I was in LA, I was making a lot more because I was the one doing the work, right? I was making transparency wise. I think my first year was like 70,000. If I was still there, I would actually be in the six figures. I would probably be making around, and this is just a guess, but 120 grand to 180 grand a year, right? Something like that. It might have been more, might have been less. It really depends on how the business would have shaped out. But me being there would have actually made me be capable of promoting that business and making it go further than it currently is at the moment. Now, because I have employees that I pay and I only keep about 30 to 40% of the pay, and there's overhead to pay my employees, I'm really only realistically making about 32,000 a year. Not a lot, but when you don't have any children, I have a dog, and I think y'all saw it earlier. There's one right there. He's kind of hidden. He's right there. We have another one, but we don't have a lot of expenses to really hold us back. My wife makes about three times the amount that I do after taxes. So you're talking about 90 grand on her end. So combined, we make over six figures. Enough money, no complaints, but she does work a lot harder than me as well. She has her 9 to 5, whereas that, because of me, it's a remote business. I can do, well, this. I'm starting to do this. But I want to speak about the fact, and there's going to be more information revealed as me as we go along. And if you do decide to follow my journey and just sharing videos, maybe even occasionally vlogging, just speaking about what I want, video games, whatever. I do play video games. Um, but yeah, pros tax combined, like we have no issues. We have no kids. We save and aggressively invest. As you can see, I have some Pokemon stuff in the background. I'm a collector and I've been for like 7 years now. Uh, and I love actually just displaying. I love how the collection boxes looks. I also do just buy the cards themselves, like this PSA 9 from Yu-Gi-Oh! Blue Eyes White Dragon. All right, this is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Case. But I also understand when you have a hobby, you can't make it be, for me personally, and I'm just sharing this information, a fun and something negative that completely demolishes your monetary value and your future ability to retire. And because I make a lot less money, I have to, and I'm not saying that it sounded like I was saying it in a bad way. I'm glad that I need to do this and I should be doing this. And I think if you're in a similar situation, you should hold yourself responsible in that same regard because it's all about a companionship and helping each other out, especially when one is doing in other people's eyes, it's gonna be that they're doing more, right? Most people when they see me, wait, I'm going off track. This is my whole thing. Let me continue. So I take care of most of the finances in terms of our budgeting, credit card churning. If you don't know what that is, you could look it up. But basically, opening up credit cards that you and using them just to pay bills and purchase that you were gonna make originally, and just getting that cashback bonus. So basically, getting free money, right? It's not opening credit cards to spend money. Remember that. That is not what credit card churning is. But I do that. I do some bank account churning as well, which is like opening a bank account. You deposit money. They give you like $400 for depositing $1,000. If you keep the account for 90 days, that's like a 40% return. I do that occasionally in free time. It does not take a lot of time, right? So that does add on to my income. Maybe some of this does too. But besides the point, it doesn't feel like it's enough, right? And that's where I'm getting at. My wife makes more money, and as a male, it is definitely the butt of the joke in a lot of my friend groups that even I make fun of it, and it doesn't affect me a lot. It really doesn't. There is a tiny bit of me that always feels disappointed, and I'm saying this to all the dudes out there, but they never made it actually feel that way. It's just the way me and my friends interact, including the friends, the wives of the friends, the girls, whatever. I would say I have a sugar mama. I'm retired. She does all the work, whatever, right? And they would always joke around. It's like, oh, you don't work, you don't do anything, right? Which is just a part of the joke. It's a butt of the joke. I'm not gonna lie, that doesn't at times make me feel bad about myself, but it's a small amount, right? Because overall, I know what I'm doing. There is things I do in this house because, as I mentioned, because I knew I wasn't making as much money as her. And again, I do make money. I don't make a lot, but as much money as she does, and I have as more free time than she does. She doesn't have to worry about. And it again, because I do think this is the fair part of the negotiation relationship. The managing of the financing, investing the money, moving money around, us buying houses, cars, etc. And generally speaking, any paperwork that comes in, whether it's, and I'm not going to show the actual information, but I got to make sure to say like, okay, so anything like here's our property tax statements, right? I'm not going to show it. I'm just going to make it seem like this is it. It is behind here, but property tax statements, right? Escrow, moving that money around, finding ways to ultimately make our money work a lot more for us and get longer in the return, and actually doing the finances and the numbers and calculations. That is my responsibility. And I actually love doing it, to be honest. I love actually numbers. I never really found a way to work that into a job because I had other jobs before. I've always actually, I don't know about always, but for most of the time, I've always had some form of a job, some form of income I'm making. Now, I used to be an EMT, the auxiliary firefighting, quite simply, worked a summer job as well. And then obviously had my current job, which I don't want to go too much into what that business is for obvious reasons. But um, yeah, I manage all those finances. I manage the household. I manage the bills, and that is my responsibility. And it's not a lot. It could be, and people underestimate if you're doing it efficiently because you have time. You should do it efficient because you have time. There's things that you could do that you get money back just from managing your household. That actually gives you money back when you pay a bill. Rebates when you freaking install a heat pump. We just got $2,000 back because I did a rebate application. I had to research to do that. Other households, because both are working a lot more hours or don't have the time, they don't do that. They'll pay the payment like, oh, I had to get a new air conditioning. And that's all. They don't do a rebate because they don't get told by the city that their city might have a rebate program. They don't look at other avenues that gives them a cheaper cost, etc. But I'm able to do that because of my free time. The dogs, I'm able to take care of the dogs. Essentially, it's almost like I'm a stay-at-home parent. Kind of. I don't want to say it because I have no kids. All right? I'm not trying to insult people with kids. What I'm trying to get is that there's more value I bring to this relationship than just the money that I make at the moment. That is lesser than my wife, right? I make a third of her income, but combined, the value I bring isn't just in the monetary value. And I wanted to make this video and talk about it because people don't are looking from outward inward. They can't. You can't in all our situations, no one knows what's actually happening in the privacy of their home, what they're doing in the background. And don't get it twisted though. I know I could be doing more, and that's always been recently. It's been the issue. I had depression back in the day because I was not making enough money, um, and I felt like we were behind monetary retirement. But now, like from all from that point and realizing I had to change my financial knowledge, literacy, and help manage that and move us forward. And like, okay, this is how much we should spend, even though we make this amount of money every month that we have an excess and full transparency. So every month we have about $5,000 free to spend. We try not to spend that. At most, we try to do $500. Sometimes it ends up being that month we do $1,000 or there's an expense or whatever. But most of that money we try to invest, put in a emergency fund is what we have initially, and then the rest goes to investments. So that in 10 years from now, and that's our goal, that by the age of 45, we're going to be done. I've talked to a financial advisor. I had my rough calculations and I thought they were right, but I wanted to confirm. Believe it or not, I recommend ChatGPT. This is not a plugin for that. I'm not even sponsored, but I use ChatGPT. People made fun of me for that. And that's also been another thing of a real big part of my personality trait is I tend to be the butt of the joke. I never understood why. Maybe it's because the way I take it, it's always laissez-faire. I'm always very carefree and free spirit about it and don't really get insulted. There's very few times I will get angry at someone when they insult me. And it's been very, very rare. But continuing on, I always go on my tangents. We've invested, I did that calculation. ChatGPT, I was made fun of for using ChatGPT and telling them even ChatGPT was telling me I was right. And they made fun of me, trust ChatGPT. It's like saying trust the internet. But I'm not trusting it. I'm saying it was a source. There's sources online. We use the internet. When people learn stuff, a lot of time it's Google search. That's not something that we do, research papers, etc. Especially people aren't going for a thesis or a performance thesis, doing the research themselves. That's how we get our knowledge, right? It's the internet. And that's what ChatGPT is, the internet. But outside that, I did end up using a financial advisor that it's a benefit to ours because of the money we've had invested with SoFi. We had a one-on-one and they told me we're super on track. Even the most conservative 5% return, I think she told me, no, 6% return. We're on track without even considering investments outside of just regular SoFi, SPY, right? So the S&P 500, SPY, you can name it, VOO, VTI, VMO. There's a bunch of other ETFs. You can even do REITs, whatever, it doesn't matter. So there's my value. And even though I say it, and I say it out loud, and this is why I'm trying to relate with those out there who are the feeling, especially in this culture, and it's always been this way for this culture, and it feels like it's changing, but it really isn't, because I still, to this day, think even the most progressive and liberal people will say that they are cool with a man who makes less, or being the breadwinner, or their man, whatever. I don't think that's the truth. And if it is joked around too much when a man isn't making money, especially when the woman makes more money than the man. And it does hurt slightly, not a lot to actually affect me negatively. I welcome the jokes. Fuck it, put it in the comments. Call me a deadbeat if you want. I know what we're doing. I know how we're doing in life, and I think we're doing good. But I wanted to share that you're not alone out there if you are in a similar situation. Just know you do bring value, and just try to find that value. I personally do want to figure out ways to work more, and I've been doing steps towards that recently, trying to get more clientele. It's not an easy way to get clientele in my business. That's another thing about it. And so I've always thought Do I put more time in the business, or do I put time in getting a certificate or certification of welders, whatever, and just becoming a welder? But then you take away that time that I have for investing and doing all this other stuff. So it's a give and take. Um, but yeah, you're not alone out there. You know, I just wanted to share that today. My wife makes more money than me. I'm proud of her, and I'm glad. And we have a lot of things. Yes, it's because I've made the decisions to invest. We own two homes. This home that we're in right now, and we have another home. Um, and no, we're not landlords. We're not trying to be greedy. Whatever. I think it's fine to own another home. You're playing a system, and it sucks that the system exists. But that's the reality of this world, right? We're in a system. I'm not rich. We're not rich. We're trying to get to a point where we could retire early, which I believe they call it fire. I don't. It's like financially independent, retire early. I think it is. I actually don't know what it means, but yeah. Um, my wife makes more money than me. I'm slightly ashamed a bit of it. And again, this is me being honest, and I said I was gonna be honest from the very start. And the jokes hurt sometimes, but at the end of the day, they don't hurt enough. And I'm proud of my partner. I'm proud of where I've gotten. And as this channel's name is, I'm lucky to be here. I will never take what I currently have for granted. There's days where you're like, you feel depressed and pessimistic about your situation. But remember, just think about the rest of the world, right? Think about even your fellow peers sometimes, right? When I think of my fellow peers or classmates or whatever you want to say, and comparison is a thief of joy, but it's going to happen. You're going to compare yourself to others. Just count the blessings you have, that maybe you have legs, you're able to run, you don't have any disabilities, you have a house, you have two houses, you know what I mean? You have fucking a car. There's just, and part of my language, but I'm gonna cuss. This is not necessarily a non-cussing channel. And that that's all I gotta say. My wife makes more money than me. And I'll repeat it again. I'm proud of her. Won't show her what she does. And I'm lucky to be here. And I hope you realize that you're lucky to be here. And that's what we're gonna be doing every time here. Just reminding ourselves that it's lucky. We'll get into politics too. Some of that too. And sometimes how I feel too many people are pro clutchers and don't realize that they really have to care about the people around them and everyone else. Don't get me wrong. But count your blessings that you're lucky to be in this country or lucky to be here. And I'm not saying we're perfect. We are not. There's so much wrong, even in your own city, in your own people, your own family. I'm not a good person either, in my opinion. I and full transparency, I donate money to causes. Not a lot. I think a total $100. No, $50 a month. Not a lot. But I'm not rich. If I had a lot more money, trust me, I would donate a lot more money to causes because to me, that's the easiest way that I could impact something that I personally know. And this is why I know I'm not a good person because to me, that I'm looking for the easiest way to make an impact, right? But I don't like the social media pandering, the pro cultures, the ones who are on a high horse, right? On an ethical chair, that are virtue signaling, in my opinion, posting on social media, right? And I don't know if they even donate when they might have the ability to donate and do something else than just posting. But remember, we are lucky to be here. I hope you have a good day. And I hope you realize the blessings. I'm not religious. And I'll see you next time. It's Carlos. And I'm lucky. Thank you guys. Bye. Till next time. Yep. That's good. I don't know.